This is Michael Sanson. This is Assignment 3, Section 3, the video portion of this assignment. So the scope and purpose of this design. A university requires a method for tracking alumni information. So this requires a current record of alumni contact information that can be stored and accessed, as well as the ability to track alumni engagement and donation. So the purpose is a directory of alumni information. Basically, an area for the university to add information for any of the alumni that graduate, and then change that information or search for it when needed. The system should also contain an alumni engagement and donation tracking function. So the scope of the system's account creation, modification, account search, alumni engagement and donation tracking, and help documentation. So the system tasks, there are 6 tasks on the system. The first one being logging into the system. This is required before anything else can happen. These are attempts to log into the system with their credentials. Once they're into the system, they can add alumni information. The rest of the tasks cannot be completed without existing alumni information. So the other tasks are update alumni user information, search for alumni user information, search for alumni engagement and donations, which is essentially searching for user information. However, specific fields are added that show the participation and donations for each alumni, and then help and documentation, which allows users to basically see how to use the system. So the technologies used for the low fidelity prototype, Microsoft Visio was used. This allowed for just quick SketchUps, making interfaces as I needed. For the functional prototype, Java JDK 15 was used with Java Swing. The NetBeans GUI designer was used to create the system on a whole. So the login interface is the first interface that's used. It's used to log into the application. User submits username and password, and the system accepts or denies their credentials. Once they're accepted, they'll go to the main application menu. Otherwise, they'll be provided an error message. So the walkthrough for this consisted of launching the application and attempting to log in. I was looking for failures and success. So this is the main page for logging in, which is followed by the page that you enter credentials. If you enter your credentials incorrectly, this is what you'll see. If you enter your credentials successfully, no notification is given. You're just sent to the main directory page. So the second interface is the add alumni information. This is one of the core interfaces, and it's used to add alumni information into the directory. To the walkthrough for this was navigating to the alumni information page, entering complete information for errors, entering wrong information for errors, adding correct user information, and then getting the confirmation of adding a user. So this is the screenshots of those actions. And now you can see the account information was successfully added. The third interface is also a core interface, which is used for modifying existing alumni records. The walkthrough, basically, you go to the alumni information page, update alumni information page, enter information of the non-existing user to get an error message, and then search for a user that's in the system. As you go through, different error messages should be generated as well by testing the specific criteria that's specified. So here are the screenshots that go through that again. This is the error message that's seen when there's no user. This is what you'll see if the user is found, and then you can go from there. And this is the message you get when the user's been updated. So the search interface, pretty basic, but it's a core function of the system as well. Basically, there are several different lookups you can use. uh, searching for specific grad years, specific programs, or just wildcards. Not if you leave all fields blank, a wildcard search will be done. This shows all users that are in the system. You can specify grad year, which will limit to the grad year. If you don't enter grad year or you enter characters that are not numbers, you will get an error. This will show the program specified. So help and documentation. So this provides information to the user. The walkthrough was just selecting help from the menu bar, the documentation, and then selecting report creation. Which the documentation menu is separate from the initial interface, so it is a separate window entirely. Alumni engagement basically is search, but it is specific search for alumni engagement and donations. The walkthrough essentially searches for wildcard at first, and then searching for minimum donations. Errors are tested throughout as well. So this will result in a wildcard search, which will show all results, which you can see here. And this is if you try to put in a letter into the minimum donation field, it will give an error. If you put in a minimum donation, it will filter the search results to show anybody above that. Clicking on the create report button will allow you to create a report. So the design rationale for this system, basically the main menu allows for the user to select between the alumni directory and alumni engagement section. This basically allows each section to be their own and not make one interface go too deep. It allows the user to focus on what they need to focus on as well. There are 3 available options per menu in these for the alumni directory and alumni engagement, as well as the main page. This prevents the user from being overwhelmed, and it also keeps the page aesthetically pleasing. It looks nice and spaced out well. There's use of white space there as well. So the menu bar is available at all times. This enables the user to access various interface independent options. So that could be help. Basically, you can access that from any page you're on. The home button, which takes you back to the main page of the application. Close, which closes out the application. Plus, there's options and preferences and other features that are accessible from the menu bar, which can be accessed at any time. So the buttons have limited text. This keeps the interface clean. It also provides the user with only information that's required, so they don't have to do too much reading to figure out where they need to go. The breadcrumbs are added to all pages. This allows a user to know where they are on the application at all times, and it prevents the user from getting lost if they go too deep into an interface. Custom message boxes were created for error messages. This was done to keep the error messages consistent and customizable in the system. So it looks like the rest of the system, and it doesn't. It's not jarring to a user that has a completely, since it's an error message that doesn't have a completely different look. For help and documentation, a new window is created. So when you go there, a new pop-up will happen, which will allow the user to remain on the same screen that they were on when they accessed the help documentation. This will allow the user to look up the help documentation that they need while trying to complete a task. The use of colors. So gray and white were used for the main application. This provided contrast and was easy to see. Like, it's easy to see the difference between gray and white. And it's not too hard on the eyes. The reds were used for warning messages and errors that occurred, as it's commonly associated with stopping. So there's an error there. So back and cancel buttons, each page allows for the user to go back out of a selection. They are able to return to where they came from. Design rationale again is input validation. So um, basically this prevents the user from creating errors or making errors. It also prevents them from adding wrong information or trying to add an alumni with missing information. And consistency. So all pages have the same style and button location if possible. Style remains the same throughout, but button location might change if needed. Generally, they're in the same spot, so the user knows where to look for those buttons, fields, and whatever else. The low fidelity prototype development and evaluation. So the initial low fidelity prototypes, uh, a standard design was created initially. So the prototypes of the core functions were created first. These were add, modify, and search. Um, after that was created, help and documentation and alumni engagement prototypes were added. They were all separate interfaces at that time and were brought into one whole system. Um, so this it created a lot of change because things didn't work or the interface just wasn't quite the way it needed to be. So it evolved over time, like adding buttons, removing things, making a more streamlined interface. So a lot of change happened from when it was first designed to the final low fidelity prototype. An evaluation. So during the creation of the prototypes, consistency was looked at the most. Basically, button location, fonts, colors, everything should have been the same throughout the interfaces. Functionality was also looked at to ensure that everything worked. It all had to work together. Basically, it's one application, so everything should work together, and that also means cohesiveness. Cohesiveness needs to be there. Um, Problems were corrected when they were found, and error recovery. So throughout, I looked at where errors could occur and how they could be prevented or recovered from if they did occur.